Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode. I'm next to Karura ACK Church and I want to go to the other side of the road. There is a town I want to explore there and it goes by the name Karura Kanyungu, which is quite a small town, but it has been in existence for more than 100 years. And this is the newly constructed Nairobi Western Bypass, and it has played a major role in destroying the small town. I will show you why. In fact, the town is on a deathbed, and I'm not sure whether there's something that can be done to salvage the situation. And one of these problems is inaccessibility, despite being next to two major roads. I know there is an element of irony there. In fact, that road goes all the way to Gashie. I'll be taking you there later in the video. We'll also visit another town, which is also in the neighborhood and also goes by the name Karura. This is quite an interesting place. I will also tell you the relationship between the two towns and the famous Karura forest, and also visit a nearby slum. So stay tuned. But before we hit our first town in a few seconds, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our YouTube channel, Village to Town, a channel that is dedicated to continue showcasing beautiful villages, towns, and cities across the continent of Africa. We intend to visit and document all the villages and small towns in the 290 constituencies in Kenya, and I'm still stuck in Kabete constituency. But it is also good to know that Kiambu constituency is just around the corner. The town is on the border. And so if you have not yet subscribed, kindly consider doing so that we can traverse this beautiful country together. Now back to the video, and our first town of the day is here. And as I told you, it goes by the name Karura Kanyungu, which is a fancy name. Actually, it's a Kikuyu name. Remember, we are in Kiambu County. And Karura is a Kikuyu name given to a type of tree. And Nyungu is a clay pot, meaning that the indigenous people were renowned across the country for making great pots. Well, I don't know whether they are still doing that anymore. But as you can see, this is quite an old town. It fits like a typical shopping center in rural Kenya. And remember, Nairobi city is only 15 kilometers from here. And so don't think you are that far from civilization. I can see the busy general hardware shop across the road, and it bears the town's name. And so by the look of things, the town is not dead per se, but it is not as busy as some that you have visited. In fact, the last town we visited last weekend was so busy that we could not explain why the number of people was so high, despite being a few kilometers from the main road. You can check it later after this video. It went by the name Gitaru, and it is on the other side of the same constituency. You can compare the two and tell me what you think. In fact, funny enough, you can count the total number of people in this small town. And funny enough, most businesses are open, but you can't stop wondering where is everyone. And I'm told that the town's problem started sometimes last year when the government completed a nearby road which connects Gashie and Karura Kanyungu. In fact, the shops on my left are next to that road. And unfortunately, to connect it with the Western Bypass, which is right in front, the new road was raised in a manner that rendered all the front shops useless. The same road also cuts the town into two, and there's no way you can move from one side of the town to the other. And that's how the town was lost. You can also see the Nairobi Western Bypass in front is too high, and that means there is no road connecting the small town with the highway directly. And so we'll have to take the longer route to leave the town. And I know it's ironical for a town to be lost after the construction of a road, as the vice versa is expected. And I don't think there's anything that the government can do now. But maybe the town's dwellers might decide to expand it eastward in the future. But if the status quo continues, the town will have a slow death, and it might be lost completely 10 to 20 years to come. And remember, this is not your ordinary shopping center. It's quite legendary. In fact, it appears severally in the history of the country. For instance, I'm not sure whether you have come across the history of one Karori Gakure. He was a great tribal chief, even before the pre-colonial era. And history goes that it is at this town where he started his career as a traditional medicine man, as he managed to convince a party of Kikuyu raiders that he could make them invisible. And history goes that he accompanied them to Naivasha area, where they raided Maasai villages and made away with huge herds of livestock. And since then, the guy became quite popular. And I remember he was not born a medicine man, as it was the tradition, but instead he had bought his way up by buying the knowledge from the established medicine men. Well, that's the story of Karori Gakure and his connection with Karura Kanyungu. And now I'm approaching our second town, which is only 1 kilometer away from our first town. In fact, the two villages are separated by Karura River, which I just crossed. And one interesting fact about Karura River is that it goes all the way to Karura Forest, which is the biggest in Nairobi city. And although most people don't know where the forest got its name from, most old-timers know that it got its name from the river, which in turn got its name from Karura village. In fact, this is the same river between Mathare Hospital and Utalii College along Thika Road. That is, if you are well conversant with Nairobi. And I can see our second town is on site. Actually, it's more of a shopping center, and it goes by the name Karura Kamurimo, a typical Kikuyu name. Although the words Kamurimo and Kanyongo are added to differentiate between the two towns, it's a Kikuyu way of naming places. Ka means off, while Muremo means on the other side, meaning that the town is on the other side of the river from the old town that we just visited. In fact, the Kikuyu word for Americas is Muremo, meaning on the other side, as the continent is on the other side of the sea or the African continent. Well, I'm just giving you a glimpse of how Kikuyu name places so that you can get a better understanding of how the two towns got their names. I'm just looking for a way to get into the town center so that I can have a better look. I want to see how is everything and how businesses are faring here. And it seems like the interior of the town is not as busy as I thought. The traffic along the highway was quite high, but it is not the case in the interior, although most shops are opened. Or maybe it's a case of time. It's on a Tuesday, 5:30 in the evening. It's a beautiful day, and it seems like this area is designated for hotels. I can see a few lining up next to each other, small village hotels. But of course, these are just cafes. They don't qualify to be hotels. It's a naming issue, or maybe it represents the owner's vision. Maybe they envision a big hotel in future. But this road seems to be more of a back street than a town. And I want to check a few numbers as we go around the shopping center. And the two towns, which are in Kabete constituency, has a population of 8,777 people. 4,185 are men, while 4,592 are women, meaning there is a gender gap of about 400 people in favor of women. Well, there is nothing abnormal about that. In case of the households, there are 2,675 households in the entire Karura sub-location, which is in Gathiga location. About the population density, there are 1,866 people per square kilometer, and the entire sub-location covers an area of about 4.7 kilometers squared. And remember, 1 kilometer squared equals to 250 acres, so you can do the maths. So it's just a small area. And one thing that really caught my attention about the area is that it is less densely populated, especially when compared to the neighboring areas. And so it is more of a village than a town. And remember, Waka town is not far from here, but the fact that Karura has maintained a village ambience and a low population density, it's quite amazing. To give you a glimpse of what I'm saying, let's compare the population density of Karura and the neighboring area. And to start with, the entire Gathiga location has a population density of 2,285 people per square kilometer, while the entire Kabete constituency has a population density of 3,289 per square kilometer. You can see that's a lot compared to Karura population density of 1,866 people per square kilometer. And now I want to explore the residential area so that we can see how the people live. And this one right here is a church, another Anglican church of Kenya. It's a big structure. It seems like ACK is the most dominant church in the region. And of course, this is the back end. I'll be showing you the church front later in the video, so keep tuned. But first, let's explore the original Karura village. And as you can see, it's quite beautiful. This road was recently tarmacked by the county government. And before then, this place had a typical village outlook, but that has since changed significantly. Unfortunately or fortunately, such changes comes with a lot of cost, especially in terms of land and property values. Of course, it depends on which side you are, the buyer or the seller. And that reminds me of the real estate segment. I'll be giving you land's value in a few. But first, let's check this learning institution on my right. And by the look of things, this is a primary school and a public one for that matter. And you can see it's not far from the town. And learning is ongoing. In fact, of the public school resumed this week after the long holidays. So there is no need to disturb the learners. I had to turn around. And of course, I'm going back to the town to show you the church that I promised. But before we get there, let me give you the land prices. I know investors are waiting for this segment, and land prices depend on location. And to get a 50 by 100 along the Western Bypass, it can cost you as much as 10 million Kenya shillings. But if you decide to move a bit interior, you can get the same piece of land with 3 million Kenya shillings or 2.5, depending on its condition or your negotiation skills. Well, I can see the church is right here on my right. And by the look of things, it's quite a huge structure. Let me try to read. It's ACK, St. John Karura Parish, Diocese of Mount Kenya South. Well, I don't know how they divide their regions, but let me try and show you the real structure. I hope I will capture it. And as you can see, it's a huge one. It seems like the residents have really invested in this one. I told you churches and schools tells a lot about a community. They tell a big story that no one will ever tell you. In fact, you can learn about a community's socioeconomic status and their priorities, as churches and schools are built by communities. I want to show you a nearby slum, but before we get there, let me give you rent prices in case you intend to move in this area. And it is good to know that the neighboring areas of Ruaka, Denderu, and Wangige have influenced house prices. And to get a two-bedroom apartment, you will need between 14,000 Kenya shillings and 25,000 Kenya shillings, which is between 110 US dollars and 118. And to get a good studio apartment, you will need between 5,000 Kenya shillings and 10,000. Of course, the price depends on the location and the house condition. But of course, if you're just starting life or you need just a simple house, with 3,000 Kenya shillings, you can get a good Mabati house. There is something for everyone. For instance, on my right, there's a small slum. Let me show you. It's called Kibagare Slums, one of the few slums in Kiambu County. And it's quite old. In fact, the first time I heard about it was in 2002. I had just visited the area. And as you can see, most houses are made of corrugated iron sheets. And there is a church at the middle. In fact, it is occupying the largest space. It's a matter of priorities, as he just said. And I'm sure here in the slum with even 2,000 Kenya shillings, you can get a nice house. I'm sure the situation here is not as bad as those slums in urban centers. Well, that was Karura for you. I want to turn around and take the Gashie route. I want to show you some schools there. Thanks for watching that far, and please continue watching the scenic video until the end. In fact, I'll be passing by the road that divided the old town that we visited first. You'll be able to see how it destroyed the town in a few seconds. And if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, Village to Town TV, please consider doing so. Like the video so that it can be recommended to as many people as possible, and smash the notification bell so that every time we post, you will be among the first few people to be notified. Well, this is the very road that divided the town. You can see the shops are down there. There is no way you can access there from the road. And it goes all the way to Gachie, although I'll not be hitting the town. I will show you the surrounding areas. But if you want the video on Gachie, which is in Kiambu sub-county, just request on the comment section below and I will upload it for you. Also keep the conversation going on the comment section below. Tell us what you think about the video. Will you consider living in the area? Thank you.